I'm really happy that Thomas Crampton, our friend who is in Asia, is hosting our next panel. Before I ask Thomas to join us, we will have a traditional now Ignite session just after. So as you know, it's an opportunity for all of you to get on stage, get 5 minutes on stage with slides which auto-rotate, self-rotate, so you don't master the time. It's a presentation. And we have sent a mail to all of you to participate. And my friend Jared, who is going to come in just after that panel, will introduce the Ignite talks. But I just wanted to reiterate that for next year, you can be on stage, and this is all for you. So for now, Thomas Crampton, can you join me? Thomas is the star of Asia now. Please join me, Thomas. Hey, Thomas. So yeah, I was saying you're now director of social media of Ogilvy in Asia Pacific, and you're like Mr. Digital there, right, in Asia?
Yes, great to be here.
Great to be here, Thomas.
Back at LeWeb. And we have a great panel on media here with many experts to talk about the subject. Paul-François Fournier, who is the Chief of Product at Orange Technocentre. Paul, if you can please come up. It's the innovation group within Orange. And Paul was actually crucial to the purchase of Daily Motion, which was bought by Orange.
Thank you.
Next, we have Gabe Rivera, who's the founder and CEO of TechMeme, which is the tech portal for news about technology. 4 other verticals, including Media Gazer. Gabe Rivera. All right. Some fans in the audience there, Gabe. Bruno Patino, who is the Executive Vice President of Strategy and Digital at France Télévisions, which has 5 national channels, 19 regional channels, and he is also the Dean of Sciences Po Journalism School. Bruno Patino. And finally, Brad Garlinghouse, who is the AOL Silicon Valley-based President of Consumer Apps and Commerce. He's in charge of AOL Ventures, formerly was in charge of the Yahoo homepage in a previous life, and has a lot to say about media and all the adaptation that AOL has done. So Brad, please come on up. So today's panel is talking about social, local, mobile in terms of media. To begin, I'd first like to find out from our panelists what they think media means at this point. We have major operator, sort of new media. Bruno has transitioned from Le Monde and traditional media into television. And Brad, what is the meaning of media in the sense of what we're going to be talking about from your perspective?
Yeah, I think for Orange, media is a company which is creating content. And as Orange, we feel that we are local. We are billing day-to-day customers, more than 200 million, 300 in a few years. We are mobile, and our ambition is clearly to accelerate the development of some media. We've done that with France Télévisions. We are doing that with Deezer, Dailymotion. So we are not a media. We are a media accelerator in a way.
Are you going to be buying any other startups such as Dailymotion? Should anybody else out here be looking to be sold or bought by?
I mean, we are looking at having partnership, and we have several kinds of partnership. We are taking stake to partner with Deezer, with Dailymotion. This morning we have announced a partnership with Evernote. No stake. We are partnering with France Télévisions. We are partnering with many companies. So there are different ways of making partnerships.
So with your partnership with Evernote, from what I understand, it means that people can get Evernote for the premium version for free.
Yeah.
For
1 year.
For 1 year.
Yeah, exactly. So it's again how we can accelerate the development of some startup. We love great brands. We love good company. We love company with great products. Again, Deezer, Dailymotion, Evernote. So we want to help them, and we want to create value jointly with them.
Brad, with AOL, what is AOL's strategy? Another large company trying to understand the new media scene, trying to integrate with it, figure out what's going on. Purchase of Huffington Post, Patch is another interesting example.
Yeah. AOL obviously is investing a ton in content, and I think the question that you're starting with of what is media, I think obviously is what's most interesting about how social and mobile is changing media, because traditionally, things we might have thought of as media are changing a ton. Facebook is media. Twitter is media. We're all creating, our own media and the tweets that might be generated from even on this panel. And I think that creates challenges for traditional media and also opportunities, whether AOL's investment around Huffington Post, TechCrunch, Engadget, all of them are thinking a lot about how do we do things that are disruptive to what would be described as traditional media. And I think traditional media has got a bunch of challenges to change with the platforms of the new web.
And from your perspective, is it best if you do an innovation? I think Paul was sort of implying that it's separate from the main ship. Is innovation something you want to keep alive separately, or do you try and integrate it? How does it best work?
I think that is the kind of a quintessential challenge for traditional media, because if you subsume these things, I was impressed. We talked backstage about what Orange is doing, and keeping it separate, I think, is exactly the right strategy. Otherwise, I think the traditional media model and all of the cultures that come with that, I think, can squash some of the innovation that is represented here in the audience, is represented at startups that are here in. So I'm impressed with what they've done in that regard. I think a lot of traditional media.
So keeping it to hand's length is a good thing in that sense.
Absolutely. I mean, News Corp has made a huge, tens of millions of dollars investment in The Daily. And
describe The Daily.
The Daily is a competitor to Pulse and Zeit and Flipboard. AOL has a product in the category called Editions. But they're spending tens of millions of dollars building content that's just for The Daily, but they're charging for it. I think that's a legacy model that is changing. I think it's going to be very hard for that to be successful. And I think so far the data suggests, the usage metrics suggest it is struggling in getting lots of adoption as compared to players that aren't coming out of News Corp, whether it's Zeit or Pulse, what have you.
Gabe, would you consider TechMeme media?
Yeah, TechMeme's media. Its focus is on...
Just quickly, for those who don't know it, TechMeme does what?
So TechMeme's all the essential tech news stories on a single page. It's constantly updated throughout the page. So you just go there and you know what's going on. And
but none of it is written by you or your team?
Right. We just everything is quotes and links to stories on blogs and news sites and publishers all around the web. So the term media is obviously overused, to the point, like, social media contains the word media, and then most people, when they talk about the media, they're talking about more broadcast, and that's the media that we focus on. TechMeme, we don't have comments, we don't have too many tweets except from people who are part of the tech industry, and we have another news aggregator, MediaGazer, that focuses on, the media, and that's the area of coverage is definitely, one to many or many to many more, not, social media. So I think it's still useful to use a sense of the term media that excludes, just friends talking to friends.
Right. Okay. And Bruno, from your perspective, you are, dean of the journalism school, plus your role in France Télévisions.
Well, what I think is what is changing is industrial mass media. Media stay the same. I mean, take an example of TV. I was listening this morning. Somebody said, my business as a social media is to connect people between themselves. That is exactly what a broadcaster does. But it used to do it around the TV set on the couch.
Right.
And he used to control the system. Now we don't control the system. Big piece. But we have to encourage the new practices of the audience, because the audience wants to gather around a TV program, whether on what screen he wants, whether on the TV set, on the tablet, on a smartphone, or whatever, and wants to engage into social conversation. It does it on Twitter, it does it on Facebook, it will do it on the second screen of the TV, the connected TV. But I think what is changing for media is the control of the system they used to have. Because the control now is whether in the public or in the producer of social media interfaces, but we're still in the game. We don't control the game anymore.
So you have to learn to give up space and allow the users to take part.
We have to have as a priority not to control the game, but to maximize the user experience. So that is to be able to find new narratives, new ways of telling stories, and encouraging the people engaging into social media conversation around our TV shows. But we won't be able to control this conversation, and it's not a bad thing. It's a new way of doing TV, but it is maximizing the TV experience, I guess.
Gabe, from your perspective, what would be the best traditional style media that has integrated social media into what it's doing?
That has integrated social media?
Or the social aspect. This is the part that Bruno's talking about.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's not the area I focus on a lot. I'm focusing on publishers who are like experts or are close to what's happening, and very often on those sites, the social media are just sort of like follow-on things that just like collect attention but aren't really part of the whole product. I guess the main exception for us is Twitter, if you consider that social media, because we found that a lot of the...
In terms of breaking news, in terms of
occasionally breaking news, and in terms of providing additional details or comments or analysis or you know, like a counterpoint to some of the stories we have. So we pick up some tweets, but it doesn't happen too often because very often tweets are just you know, repetition, amplification, or you know, idle musings.
So there's no traditional media site that you'd say that has social at the core in a way that brings value that wasn't there before, or?
There probably are. I mean, Reddit is a site that it's a news aggregator that just links like TechMeme, but all the signals come from a community, and that's very social. It's full of comments, and the comments are moderated and arranged in a way that you get often very good discussion. So I think that would be one success.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the question that you ask is what's the future? And you know, there are so many, I would say, things which are changing today in this world of media. You've got the transition from the pure TV set to the multi-screen. You've got the transition with the new ecosystem, with the social network. You've got the ability to interact in between, I would say, a content and the different people. And I think, you know, we are still in the period where everybody tried to understand there will be success. We speak about Dailymotion. It's really a 360 platform. It's new way. It's more interactive. But you know, there are others. TechMeme. I think France Télévisions is really trying to change. I think at a time, someone will find the best way, you know, to interact and make those three worlds together and get the magic stuff of the new media.
I think it's a new way to tell stories. Whether you're a journalist or you produce a show, you cannot tell stories the way you used to.
How is it
because people now are interacting with you, and when I say interacting, we were talking backstage about journalism and how the news used to be delivered by you. Who would say today, I delivered the news to you? You don't want the news to be delivered to you. You want to be able to engage into a conversation around news and with journalists. That is the new way to tell the news and new way to tell stories. When you create a show today, you know that people will be tweeting around your show, and you know that maybe they will take over the characters you're producing into the show and to make them live in the social media, the digital space. And you have to know that. So there is not a second life, but a third life, fourth life. And so you are engaging in new ways of having multidimensional shows and multidimensional stories. The context is always changing with the stories you're telling. And that's for me the basic radical change that comes with Solomo.
Okay, we talked a lot about, so let's talk a little bit, Brad, about local with Patch, for example. Describe a little bit what that does. And social has the advantage that you're talking about scale. You're talking about something where you're gathering comments from an entire nation, a large population. Local is exact opposite of scale. We're going down very micro. Can that work?
Well, I think that what you have seen is that traditional media, which may be described as old school media, has a very difficult time producing truly local content in an economical manner that you can make money from. And that has meant they cover local things less. The local school board, the local town council, the local high school football match.
Well, or the local publications are just disappearing altogether.
They're going away, they're losing money, what have you. And I think you're seeing many players. AOL has made a very, very large investment in a network of sites in the United States called Patch, which is on a very, very local basis, towns of 50,000 people to 80,000 people. And frankly, they won't go into San Francisco. They wouldn't go into Paris. They would go into smaller, suburbs of those towns and changing, how that content is created. Going back to something Gabe said earlier that I think is an interesting part of how media is changing around social and mobile. Twitter is media. And so the volume of media we all see now, frankly, I think Gabe described it as idle chatter, which I think is generous. It could be described as garbage, right? And so all of us have so much more.
Twitter is garbage and Twitter is media.
No, the tweets. Twitter is a great platform.
Who thinks Twitter is garbage?
The tweets that I must say, some of the people are tweeting right now probably. It's just
how many people here think that Twitter is media? Fair portion. Okay, yeah. Agreement.
I think the challenge and the opportunity.
And by the way, I'll be taking questions in just a moment, please.
All right. I think the challenge and the opportunity around social and mobile is how do you apply what first was a social graph to make media more relevant, and then became with Twitter both a social graph and kind of an interest graph. And then I think as you apply mobile and local, you have really a proximity graph based on where you are. And when you intersect a social graph with an interest graph with a where I am graph, you actually have more relevant media. And I think, if you take TechMeme as an example, part of the relevance of TechMeme is it's of the moment. It is now. Mm-hmm. And it's always relevant because it's always timely. And I think there's a lot of media that doesn't take advantage of one of those graphs to create a more relevant experience, either through the creation of that content, as Bruno was describing, or in just, how it's delivered.
Right. But the problem with sticking with the local is, can it be scalable? Can you do it across many communities in many parts of a country?
An experiment that we will see play out in the years ahead. I think it's a fair question. AOL has talked publicly in that there's about 900 patch sites launched across the United States. At a, I think publicly we've said, over $100 million investment in that in 2011. And
serious money.
Serious money. And there are a handful that have already become profitable. And the question is, can you translate all 900 of those into profitable sites?
But I think on the local side, I think the main issue is volume, as you said, because when you're local, you are out of the volume that you can get when you're a worldwide platform. And I think that's where we feel that's you can get local ecosystem. I think that's what we build with France Télévisions, with others channel in France. Learning together to get a great experience, and each of the channel has its own go-to-market. We have the Orange go-to-market. We made catch-up TV, an Orange experience on TV, and I think that can create something which, with good content, we can nevertheless have enough ecosystem, enough good local content to have something that can fly on the long term.
I think scalability is the key question, because it's a fair question, because local is not what local used to mean. For a traditional, as you say, old school, so I'm old school, I guess, for an old school media, we'll talk about it later, but for an old school media, what used to be local is, let's say, a major town in the countryside and its suburbs. So you would say local is 500, 600,000 inhabitants. With the web now, it's not local anymore. And every time you create something local, something is being created that is more local than it used to be. So it's like the ground is changing everywhere. It's being more local every day. And so the traditional business model, the way to do business is not the same anymore because you cannot put volume, you cannot put audience as the key question for scalability and for a business model.
I'd love to take some questions. Are there any questions in the audience about social, local, mobile, and media? I can't see very well the lights here. Any questions for our panelists?
Well, there's one over here.
Over
Alexia.
here. There's a question, if we can get a microphone.
There may not be a microphone.
There might not be a microphone. If you can, oh, here we go. Microphone's on the way.
We should tweet the question. Huh?
Tweet the question, we'll take it, but not garbage questions. Twitter is garbage and Twitter is media. That's the finding of this panel today.
Tweet the question. It's more efficient.
Please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Alexia Tsotsis from TechCrunch. I know 2 of you on the panel, and the rest of you are new to me. Really, though, how important is local? I mean, Gabe, none of your sites have any kind of local implementation. And Brad, how's Patch doing?
So Patch is not Alexia. Well, part
the
of the
new
disclosure Alexia should offer up front. The disclosure for Alexia should also she works for AOL as part of the TechCrunch family. Anyway, Patch, how is it doing? You know, Patch has reached I think some of the order of magnitude 10 million uniques in about 18 months, and so its reach has grown very quickly. You know, it's not something in my group, and so I don't have intimate knowledge of what they're doing. It is clearly a challenge. But I think to say that local content doesn't matter is short-sighted, to say the least. You know, if you go to the suburban communities, parents care a lot about what's going on in their community. They care about the school board. They care about the city council. They care about the development around their neighborhood. They care about the high school football team that doesn't get covered anymore. So I think local matters. Can Patch or other local players scale and do it profitably? That's the experiment that's being played out, and we'll see.
Right, well, that's the challenge. We all know that we need that local news, but can you make money on it? What is happening in France? Are there any examples in France, either with France Télévisions or other,
well, you know,
trying to do something like Patch?
For the time being, no, because local news used to be covered by a kind of monopoly, which was the press. You know, we had local press. We still have local press, and you would have local television and state television and state radio. But as I said to you, the local was a huge place, in fact. And now I totally agree. Everybody knows that what people engage the most when you talk about news, it's local news. But how you organize local news, in an enduring way, it's the key question. As you know, in the United States, all these foundations, ProPublica or whatever, that try to support journalism, do it on a local basis because they find that local stories are not covered anymore and local powers are not monitored anymore. So the local news, it's a key question. But the way it will work, and then I'm not saying here about audience, about practices, or even about engagement, but how do you monetize that? I don't know. I really don't know.
Gabe, would you do a local site?
No.
Why not? Why not? We're getting a question from the audience here. Great. No microphone needed.
Well, there have been plenty of local news aggregating
Can you
things.
aggregate something local news by its definition has very little news in it?
First of all, there needs to be like good, interesting content and an abundance of it to even worry about filtering. You know, that's what we do, filtering. And there needs to be a good abundance in the first place. I don't think there's, you know, we've all talked about local, but I don't think there's any sense of something really successful at the most like local level, you know, at the smallest scale. Brad, you were very diplomatic about Patch, but it doesn't sound encouraging. I've encouraged a Patch article once in the past year, and I wade through a lot of news.
Tech News picked up one patch
I
article?
don't even. I think it may have linked to one in discussion because a patch.
Discussion meaning a level down of importance, not the highest level. It's sort of secondary importance.
A secondary link.
Also running news. Also.
Yeah. So I believe it was a patch article that was the first to discover when Steve Jobs presented his plans for the Cupertino. Yeah, and I think a patch.
The new Apple building. Yeah.
I think so. You know, kudos to whoever did that, but it wasn't a very good account of it. And TechCrunch, I believe it was Alexia, happened to write that up in a. in a way with like a lot of good context.
I think there are clearly examples where local content it becomes very relevant on a national scale. One of the stories, not to be the defender of Patch, but one of the stories that Patch covered ended up being covered in the national media because Governor Christie of New Jersey, he flew the state helicopter to his son's T-ball game. I'm sure I'm getting the facts a little bit wrong there, but like he took the state helicopter to watch his son's T-ball game, and the helicopter lands. There's a Patch reporter there, and it's a little bit of citizen journalism curated. And so, listen, I think Patch, from a reach point of view, to go from 0 to 10 million uniques in 18 months, I actually will defend all day long. Like, that's actually really, really, really good. I think the question really remains, are the local merchants interested enough to advertise on the Patch platform in Palo Alto, California? Can you do it scalably and profitably? The argument that AOL makes, of course, is yes, because it's so much more relevant because of the local proximity. But I don't think there's a lot, there's certainly some Patch articles that are higher quality than others. Local content matters. And as Gabe points out, unless there's an abundance of it, the curation is less relevant. The challenge today is there's less local content being created. And we all really should care about that.
But I think the main question is, what is local then? Because if you're speaking, I think you could say local is really, a small town. I think, I feel, Chris, that it's quite hard to find a sustainable business model in those days. I think if you say France is local, I think then you have but in this worldwide world, I think the word local is changing of I would say dimension and scale.
And anything happening in France is local news, you're saying?
I don't think we got a great example. Bruno is probably better than me to explain, but I don't think we are finding today in France a specific, very local business model. I think we have in France a transformation of the media ecosystem, which is at the French scale and which is, I'm sure, will find his model. But on a smaller scale, I'm not very confident.
Of course, we're engaged in local news and in local social media system, but we're state-funded. So I wouldn't.
That's a different economic model.
That is a different economic model.
That's not the AOL's model.
It turns out that one's not working either.
Well, sorry, it does.
I'm just saying. I'm sorry. That was just an EU debt crisis joke, which didn't work. But.
Well, that's the problem of our shareholder.
The fundamental shareholders facing the challenge there.
That is.
Mobile. Is mobile important for you, Gabe, and what you're doing? You have how many uniques do you have per month?
In the hundreds of thousands.
And how much? What portion of that is mobile, and what are you looking at in terms of developing?
Maybe about 10%. It's not
10%, so relatively small.
Yeah.
You haven't reached the crossover point we were hearing about with YouTube from Marissa Meyer today.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Google Maps. Google Maps, which passed over in June, she was saying on weekends they were getting more traffic off of mobile than they were off of desktop.
Well, that makes sense for Google Maps. I know there are there are news sites. I've heard of them where mobile is the biggest part, but I think for a lot of sites maybe that are part of work, that are part of like the taking some time off of work experience. I think techniques like that, desktop or laptop experience is still a big part of it.
What's interesting,
Brad?
Twitter has publicly stated that over half of their activity comes from mobile devices today. Facebook has said it's in the 30-ish% of activity is coming from mobile devices. And so, again, depending on how we define media, I think it's going to continue to have a profound impact on media. And going back to my relevancy comment, the media I'm most interested in when I'm physically in Paris, I on my mobile device went to CNN.com here, and I'm interested in what's going on in Paris because I'm in Paris or I'm in France. It's all local. That's not what I get. And I think the opportunity is how do traditional media models take advantage of signals like location, social graph, interest graph to create a more relevant model. It's definitely what AOL is trying to do with Editions, this iPad app that is competing in that space.
And I think they are twofold in the mobile. They are when you're away and how you can get all your content away. I think it's something which is clearly growing very fast, and we're seeing that on day-to-day basis on the network, of course. And they are also inside the home, how you use your mobile when you watch TV, and how you can interact, and we come back to how you can create this new experience in between the mobile, the tablet. You know, my son is on day-to-day basis looking to Twitter, Facebook, looking to TV, and again, how we will interact, who will find the right way to make this multi-screen really approach inside the home. There is something to do there.
Excellent.
I think mobile is the new frontier of TV. I mean, we're going out of the living room. It's the way we conquer new territories and new time for the people. And so mobile, smartphones, whether you're in the metro, in the train, on the streets, or whatever, it's the new frontier for us, and it's very important.
What have you, in particular, what have you worked on in terms of?
Well, we've worked on, of course, on iPhone applications, iPad applications, where you can view, catch up, and share all the content that we have on TV. And of course, the consumption is booming.
And that's one of the key rationale of the deal we've done with Dailymotion is clearly that, you know, they are really multi-screen approach. They are really on any device, on any mobile, and so on. And then we want to complement and then to offer a really new experience in between IPTV, multi-screen, and propose that to our local and global partners to have, you know, a good experience.
Okay, so for social, we determined that Twitter is media and garbage, local is challenged, and mobile is the future of TV. So thank you very much to our panel. Loic has actually brought us some snacks here.
Thank you, Loic.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, my pleasure. It's, we need to have some energy here.
We need some energy.
I'd take an orange.
Orange, of course. You were saying thank you?
Yes, I was saying thank you very much to our panelists. And Loic, thank you very much for another great LeWeb, and we'll move on to the next.
Yes, we have. Thank you very much for coming and stopping by. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.